Hey everyone, welcome back to Shutter Magazine. I'm Dustin Lucas, and today I'm going to be talking about On1 Raw and if it's a time for a change from Lightroom Creative Cloud. Starting out, faster from start, I'm going to show you just what On1 Raw has to offer. Opening up the program, we're immediately looking at our files. Boom, look at that. No catalogs, no loading. I don't have options for previews, backup. This software it's immediately pointing at my raw files. It's assuming I've already backed up the files. It's assuming I've already done a lot of that archival upfront work. Now I'm just ready to work on my files. That's what On1 Raw is for. So I'm going to jump right in and talk about it's non-destructive like Lightroom. It has syncability. The capabilities of this program is it creates sidecar files like XMPs. Much like Lightroom, much like Capture One's, creating proprietary metadata files. So as you see, I have a lot of XMPs here. My On1 files are going to save the exact same way. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So first thing we want to do is go to Preferences. We can do quick hotkey is we can do Command, comma. We're going to go into the Files panel. Make sure that the sidecar option is checked. It's the first thing you want to do opening up your program, so that way these On1 sidecar files, they save and they're ready to go. Moving on, so we're looking at these files immediately. It's pointing to them, much like Bridge, much like Photo Mechanic. We're ready to start editing these files. We can view them. The software, I'll just show you how quick it is, right? So I'm double clicking on an image. We're looking at it here. It's loading, sort of a standard preview. Now I'm zooming in to one-to-one preview. It's loading, it's loading, it's loading, it's loading, ready to go. It's not instantaneous like Photo Mechanic, but we're looking at the raw files and we're editing them. Photo Mechanic, you can't edit. It's looking at the JPEG preview. On1 Raw, we're looking at the raw file. We're here. So there's no beating around it. Is it a quick program? It cycles between the images pretty quickly, but to get the standard previews, it still has to load them one by one. Once it loads them, we no longer have to load them again. And I'll show you that right here. So we're zooming in, and we're there. We're not loading again. So that's the important part. It builds that preview, saves that in the preview cache, and then moves on. So it doesn't have to keep rebuilding it. It's pretty quick. So we're going to take these images. We're going to go right into Develop panel. So I'm going to pick an image that's going to allow me to kind of do a little bit of work with the recovery and just kind of show the changes that this program made to the Develop panel, some changes, things like that. Before we, of course, jump into Develop panel, let's talk about the changes in the software and how it's pointing to these files. Right now, we're on a local drive, right? What I can do is I can go into my OneDrive. I can do Browse, go to OneDrive here, and I can point to all of my raw files. As you can see, there's my On1 proprietary metadata file, separate from the XMP. It saves as a sidecar file. I can open that up, and I'm immediately accessing these files, making changes to them, and it's going to save that data immediately. Let me show you exactly that. So I'm working in this software. I'm not working in a catalog. I'm not working in a session. I'm working in On1 Raw. I can start making changes to this file. Let's just do auto. Pretty decent job overall. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my browse mode, and I'm going to show you that that proprietary file for this image, 1275 is making changes. Let's go here to my On1 drive where I'm pointed, and it's automatically making that change in real time. So let's do this. Let's change by name. So that way 1275, and this is CP 1275. My On1 Raw immediately saved. So I'm going to make another change, and it's saving those changes right away. I kind of zoomed in there. Zoom back out. Pretty quick. So it's saving that file, allowing somebody else on the other network to access it. Moving on to Develop panel. So we have this basic editing panel. Big changes in here, structure. They allowed that. I'm going to go ahead and reset this image. You're going to notice too that we're looking at the after of this edit, right? Where's my before and after preview? Well, we can split it down the middle. Kind of a stop loss there. We have the backslash key below the backspace or delete key on a Mac, and allows us to toggle unedited, edited. Unedited here, edited here. I think I'm backwards on that. Brightening up the image, excuse me. So moving through this image, we have the ability to do some of our changes, our normal editing. Nothing really changes there. Structure replaced clarity. So as we're increasing the structure, we have some, some added sharpness in there. to our image overall. We also have the haze key, which is similar to the dehaze. Nothing new there. We also have this purity option here, so I can start to desaturate specific tones. Pretty great. I can work on the coat and I can desaturate all of those shadow tones on the coat, kind of remove that. Do the same thing with highlights to kind of remove some of the blue that's in his shirt. So pretty great software. Starting off with there on the develop panel, moving into sharpening. It's a little more intuitive than the typical software in Lightroom. What I like about this is I have different options on how to sharpen. I have my normal sliders here. I can also protect tones, so it's going to do a little bit more extensive masking. So I can lift this in order to save some of these tones in the face. So I can, with it completely off and with it back on, it's going to allow me to save some of the skin tones with the sharpening as well. Pretty great. So we have some more panels that we can open up. Black and white, color adjustment, which is HSL. Most of our normal things. Couple things missing from here. Lens correction, it does it automatically, and camera profiles does it automatically. Very similar to Capture One. It applies the best profile and moves on. So it's not getting into creative film presets, removing all that kind of thing that Lightroom allows you to do with the Visco and the Mastin. That's Lightroom related. I don't know if On1's going to attack that later, or if they're just keeping everything within their program. Moving on past the develop panel, we have the ability to make layers. What I mean by that is I can create adjustment layers. So I can go in, much like the ability that I have in Lightroom to do some local brush adjustments. Well, I don't want to do that. We can do some lightening. We can lower this down, not have to be so intensive. We can lighten up the face. Nothing too crazy there. Brightening up some of those things. Definitely don't grade me on my brush ability in here, but just kind of brightening up some of these tones. We have the ability to make some editing changes here. I can add another adjustment layer and then go in and do something specifically to just the white shirt. If I wanted to start to desaturate it, pull some of the saturation out. Of course, it's going to affect the tie. You got to be careful with those kind of things, but you have the ability to go in and make those adjustments. Of course, here you can layer them up. You can keep going, just keep adding adjustment layers there. Even further, we have the layers panel, which kind of works to allow us to clip out some of the parts of this image here. Obviously, it's going to create a PSD. It has to load a new image altogether. Not a big fan of the layers panel itself. I normally would take the image directly into Photoshop, but it certainly is nice to have that capability in one program altogether. Like I said, it created a PSD. It had to render this image out. I have a lot of refined masking. Start to clip this image out. I'm going to move on to effects. Effects is where I can really start to add in multiple filters and start making adjustments on this image. I can do dynamic contrast, which is pretty over the top, but really adds some grit to the images. I have this opacity slider to each of my filters I want to add, which is pretty awesome. I can I could start to do like some a little more desaturated, some black and white, just pretty interesting capabilities here. I mean, we also have some, the ability to do some skin retouching. Let's go here 50% so we can see the face. Toggling this on and off, we have the range of skin tones. We can, really start to determine what parts of the image we're affecting. We can choose the skin tone here of what our range for the skin retouching is. I can drop back on opacity. I can go into masking, huge. I can start to remove some of these areas of the mask. Let's get rid of this colors. And mask out those specific areas. So I have a lot of abilities to mask in. I can also invert the mask to where it's, let's see, we're going to reset our mask altogether. We're going to invert it. And now what I can do is I can toggle between X, whether I'm adding the effect in or not. Pretty great. Probably will follow up with more skin retouching down the road, just kind of showing that you have the ability to mask on each of these layers, each of these filter layers. So we have the same thing with local adjustments. We can go in and make exposure again. These kind of allow you to mask out the specific effect. Pretty nice. Each one has its own global opacity to drop things down, your check mark to turn it off and on. Lots of layering in this, which for a non-destructive program is pretty awesome. The versatility of masking. You have a lot of masking. We can do here, we can do show mask, view mode, we can do the red overlay. We have the ability for our brush to make a lot of brush adjustments. So by holding our different, so shift and the bracket keys, bracket's going to be sizing, shift and bracket's going to be your feathering. You also have the option bracketing. As you can see, my opacity is lowering on the specific brush. So I can do opacity to the entire effect. I can do opacity to my brush. I can mess with feathering, just holding the shift key, and my sizing, just hitting the brackets. I mean, there's a lot of, you're painting in, painting out, toggling X. You can do the perfect brush. So just showing you real quick, let's go ahead and reset mask. We're gonna invert our mask. So we can do like the same way as you do Command I, and we have the ability to do the perfect masking. As you can see, I'm clicking outside of his face, but it's only allowing so much of it to show up. Obviously, we're losing a lot of that, and the hair kind of gets a little out of control there. I mean, there's definitely some features that are being lost, but the perfect brush, kind of getting some lag on my computer on a little bit older of a laptop, so that's where I'm getting a little clicking, getting a little click happy. But there's some upside and some downside with the using the perfect brush altogether, but it's a lot of new functionality with the brushes, with the masking. I mean, that's huge for the masking. Not to have like the pins like you have in Lightroom kind of get a little clustered. This gives you an actual mask, much similar to Photoshop, and I love it. So jumping past our effects panel, I'm going to jump into resize and some of the other options that On1 Raw. I just wanted to kind of start out and show you guys, the big things for the big changes, big things that are useful for On1 Raw versus Lightroom, kind of showcasing how fast it is starting to finish. The same non-deconstructive capabilities, but also the syncability. I mean, talking about using this browse software, all these adjustments we made on this image specifically, it's going to render and go back to my image. As you can see on 1275, it's making all those changes and saving them immediately, and it's saving them as just as fast as my OneDrive syncing it to my cloud. So a computer on the same network can have the same abilities to make those adjustments, see those adjustments, and everything like that. So it's it's pretty incredible for those type of things. Extensive develop panel, layers in there. I mean, a lot of things that we can dive into. Just wanted to give you guys a run through of On1 Raw, and let me know what you think. Is it something that you're ready to abandon Lightroom on? I don't think we're necessarily there yet, but there are certainly things that when I'm ready to edit an image, when I'm ready to work in effects, when I'm ready to do some textures in an image, we can add textures. Not really my cup of tea with this background texture here, but I have the ability to import textures. So I can go in here, import my user ones, go ahead and hit choose. And it's going to allow me to choose those user textures. So let's go ahead and grab my category. I'm going down here to user. Got to go to my textures, and I'm going to click on my iStock image here. And so I automatically have, as you can see here, well, what's use of a texture if I can't mask out? I'm glad that's that's the first thing that I think about. So I'm going to hit my B key, and I'm automatically able to go in and paint out my texture. And I can use my shift and my brackets to change my feathering. If I want to make that feathering a little bit harder on the edge, we can certainly do that. Go in here and start to mask out this image for all the texture. So it's as simple as that. But yeah, definitely Reach out if you have any questions. Stay tuned next month and the months following. I'm definitely going to be talking more about On1 Raw, their developments, the changes, things like that. Reach out to me with any questions. But yeah, that's all I have for you. Thank you.